Hi, in this series of videos we're going to be looking at GCSE Maths walkthrough. Each of the playlists is going to be about 4 or 5 videos. Each video will be about 20 minutes long. Please do stop the video, have a go at each of the questions and then compare your solutions. If you do need any help, please add a comment below. I'll always come back to you. I look forward to seeing you inside the next video. Hi, this is video 4 in the playlist where we're looking at a walkthrough for the higher tier paper 3, and it's the June 2018 series for AQA. In the previous video we completed through to question number 25, so we're going to Okay, so on to question number 26. Now, question number 26 is a little bit trickier because we're dealing with histograms, but we're not given the frequency density. Now, it does tell us that the histogram shows information about 480 cars. Well, at the moment, I'm going to kind of ignore that. I'm just going to use a little bit of a trick to see if I can figure out the value of each of these different bars. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to say, okay, well, I'm going to just write in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, because by doing this I'll be able to work out a value for A, B and C, and then what I'm hoping is I'll be able to use those values using some sort of ratio to be able to work out then the value of the actual values for A, B and C. You'll see what I mean hopefully in a minute. Okay, so what I'm saying at the moment is that if I've got A, the block of A, I can say that frequency density equals frequency divided by class width. All right, well, let's have a look at that. Well, I've got a frequency I don't know, but I do know in this case I've made it up that the frequency density is 5 and the class width is going to be the difference between 15 and 30, which is going to be 15. So I've got 5 equals the frequency divided by 15. If I multiply both sides by 15, I'm going to get a frequency of 75. So although I don't think I'm right, at least I know now that I've got a bit of a method in place to be able to kind of come up with an answer for what each of these blocks represents. So B, well, again, I got frequency density equals frequency over class width, okay? Frequency I don't know. The class width, however, I know is going to be 5, okay? And the frequency density on my particular scale is going to be 6.6 at the top there, okay? 6.6. So I can plug that in and I can get a frequency of equal to 33, okay? So let's have a look at C. Okay, C, I'm going to use exactly the same idea. I'm going to get frequency density equals frequency over class width. Okay, well, frequency I don't know, but the class width I know is going to be the difference between 50 and 35, which is going to be 15. And my frequency density on my scale is 0.8. So that means for this particular block C, I would get a frequency of 15 times 0.8, which is 12. All right, so on my reckoning then, I could actually write this as A to B to C as 75 to 33 to 12. Now, if I total those up, what I'm actually going to get is 120 cars, okay? Well, it's not 120 according to this information, it's actually 480. In other words, it's 4 times bigger, okay? And because it's 4 times bigger, if I multiply each of the blocks by 4, then I'm going to work out that A has 300, B is going to be 4 times 33, which is 132, and C is going to be 4 times 12, which is 48. So actually, I've answered the question by kind of using the idea of my own scale to get these answers, and then multiplying them out, in this particular case, by 4 to get my true value of block A. Okay, so we use a kind of a similar thing, I guess, with C, with trying to find out the number of cars that are over the speed limit on question part B. Okay, now we're going to be using block C because we're interested in these cars. In other words, anything that goes past 40 miles an hour. So if we have a look at that, okay, we're going to be able to use that information to be able to work out the number of cars that were over the speed limit. So what we're actually saying is the whole of this block represents, if you remember, 48 cars. Okay, so there's 48 cars in the whole of that block. So if we're going to use frequency density equals frequency divided by class width, so we got 48 over a class width of 15, which means the frequency density, rather than the 0.8 I put it as, is actually going to be 3.2. Okay, so this is an actual value of 3.2, or this is an actual value here of 3.2. Okay, and that's perfectly fine for me because I can use that then to work out the number of cars that are above 40 miles per hour. So frequency density equals frequency divided by class width. So this time I got a frequency density of 3.2. Frequency is what I'm interested in, but the class width is going to be the difference between this 40 and this 50. So it's actually going to be 10. Okay, so frequency multiply both sides by 10 is going to be 32. So there will be 32 cars that are above the speed limit. All right, little bit of a tricky one, but hopefully you're okay with that. Bearing in mind, we are coming towards the end of the paper and we've only got 2 more questions to go on this particular paper. So let's have a look then at question number 27. Now, I must admit, I found this one quite challenging when I first did it. Okay, so a bag contains 30 discs. 10 are red and 20 are blue. Okay, one disc is taken out at random and replaced by 2 of the other colour. Another disc is taken out at random and replaced by 2 of the other colour. Another disc is taken out at random. Work out the probability that all discs taken out are red. Alrighty. Oh my gosh, so a little bit of a tricky one. Okay, so what we're saying is that initially on the first pick, okay, we've got a 10, this is for red, we've got a 10 out of 30 chance of picking out a red. Well, that's easy enough, isn't it? Okay, then on the second pick, okay, we've now got 29 discs left in, beg your pardon, we've got 29 discs left in, but we're going to replace it by 2 of another colour, so we're going to add 2 to it, okay? So that's going to give us 29 plus 2 is going to be 31. And because we picked out a red the first time round, we've only got 9 red in the bag now. Okay, so let's look at the third time. The third time, okay, well, we've picked out a red, so we've only got 8 of them. Okay, now we had 31, but we took a disc out, so that's 30. Okay, and then we replace by 2 of the same colour, of the other colour rather, so another 2. Okay, so actually when I work all of this out, I start with 10 out of 30. We're going to multiply that by 9 out of 31, and we're going to multiply that by 8 out of 32. And when we've done all of that, we're going to get, on your calculator, 3 out of 124. So, and that's the answer to this particular question. So a little bit tricky, but you've got to kind of think it through logically that there were now 29 because I took 1 away and then I added 2. That meant then that when so there were 31, I took 1 away, there were 30, and then I added 2 again, so there would be 32. Okay, so the way they've written this is quite challenging or quite tricky to understand, but it's a good question. It just does take a bit of working through. Okay, so on to question 28, which is the final question in this particular paper. Okay, so we're told that P is a point on the circle with that. So the important thing with this is to recognise that the equation of a circle means x squared plus y squared equals r squared. So this actually is the value of r squared. Now, very roughly, the square root of 80 is actually 9, because square root of 81 is 9. So it's actually just slightly less than 9. Okay, but really what we could do is, if we want to work out the equation of this tangent, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to work out the equation or the gradient of this line. Now, the reason I'm going to do that is because I know a few things about it. What I do know is that it's got this point P has an x coordinate of 4. Okay, that's what it says there. X coordinate is 4, and it's below, the y coordinate is below the x-axis, so it just means the y coordinate is a negative value, but we do need to find that one out. Okay, so we also know that OP is actually going to be the square root of 80. So what we've got here is a triangle which we can use to figure out this length here. And this length here will be actually the y coordinate for that point P. Okay, so we can say this is 4, and we can say this is the square root of 80. Okay, now by using Pythagoras, then we'll be able to work out the y coordinate of P, in other words, this length along here. Hopefully you'll see what I mean in a minute. We can say that a squared equals b squared plus c squared. Okay, so I've got a is going to be this one here, which is going to be the root of 80 squared, equals b squared. Well, I don't know b squared, it's actually this one here, so b squared plus c squared is going to be 4 squared. Okay, so that's absolutely fine. 4 squared along there is going to be 4 squared, which is 16. So I've got b squared equals, the root of 80 squared is 80 minus 16. Okay, so b is going to be equal to the square root, or b squared is equal 64, so b equals 8. Okay, hopefully that's okay for you. So what we've now worked out is the coordinate of P is going to be 4 minus 8. Okay, so all I've done, I've worked that out as 8 using Pythagoras, but because it's below the x-axis, I've said that it's actually minus 8 for that particular coordinate. Okay, so if I now want to work out the equation of the line OP, then I can use this bit of information to help me. Okay, so let's have a look at the equation of the line OP. So line OP, well, the standard equation which I'm looking for is y equals mx plus c. Okay, so we can say, well, we got y equals mx. Okay, well, m is going to be the difference in y divided by the difference in x. Okay, so the difference in y divided by the difference in x. Okay, so the gradient of this line is minus 8 divided by 4. Minus 8 over 4x, okay, and plus c, which is 0, because it's going to go through the 0 point here, or the origin of the circle. All right, so hopefully you've got this idea that it's a gradient that I'm looking for here, and this is minus 8 and this is positive 4. So the difference in y is minus 8, or minus 8 here if you like, and the difference in x is going to be 4 along here. So in other words, the equation of the line OP is y equals minus 2x. Okay, now I know that's going to be a little bit tricky to follow, but there is a playlist actually, I think, on the channel where you can have a look at equations of a tangent, okay, and that might give you a few more questions that will give you some idea about these sorts of or a bit more practice on these sorts of questions. Okay, so we're now a little bit there, because don't forget that the line OP is perpendicular to the line along here, because actually this point is 90 degrees. Now if it's 90 degrees, we can say that the equation of the tangent is going to be the negative reciprocal gradient. Okay, so let's just have a look at that. All right, so the equation of the tangent, which is the bit that we're interested in, is going to be in the form, again, y equals mx plus c. But this time I know a few things about it. What I know is that I can write it as the gradient is going to be the negative reciprocal of -2. Okay, in other words, it's going to be positive a half. It's the reciprocal, okay, the negative of a negative is going to be a positive, so it's going to be a half x plus c. Okay, now I don't know how difficult or easy it is to go from there to there, okay, but hopefully I mean, I'm sure there are some videos, and if you're not sure, please do let me know, and I'll post some more examples of this type of question, okay, on the channel as well. All right, so I also know a couple of other things about this equation. I know that it's got a point on it of 4 minus 8. So therefore I can use that to be able to work out the value of c. So I can say that minus 8 equals a half times 4 plus c. Okay, hopefully again that's okay for you. So I can say minus 8 equals a half of 4 is going to be 2 plus c, so c is going to equal minus 10. So now I've got the component parts I need to be able to work out or to write out the equation of the tangent, where I can say that y equals a half x minus 10, and that's the answer to this particular question. Okay, so it's quite a tricky question to actually end on. There are, I'm fairly sure, some other videos, and please, as I mentioned before, do add a comment below. I'll always try to post some more for you if you're not sure about any of these. Okay, so this is the end of this particular paper. Please do add a comment below if you're not sure about anything. There is paper 1 and paper 2 on the channel, as well as video walkthroughs. Please do have a look at those, and I look forward to seeing you inside the next video.